Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Teacher Needs a Drink podcast. I am Elvis, your host, and I'm here to let you know that this is a not safe for work podcast. We are teachers at the end of the week and really the end of our ropes, and we'd like to be able to talk honestly and openly about education without having to, worry about losing our jobs. So we'll be using pseudonyms throughout the podcast. This podcast is proudly brought to you and sponsored by Patreon patrons. That's right, listeners just like you. We provide a nice community of like-minded teachers are all, we like to hear, and it helps us feel supported and get through. And so we have about, 60, 65 patrons out there, and they all pay about $5 a month. And this $5 a month gives them access to over 100 pieces of exclusive audio content, lost episodes, exclusive episodes, interviews with the host, B-sides. We have live events. We also have a Facebook group. We do watch parties. There's all kinds of great stuff. And I'm going to list their names because I'm so excited they support us. A big thank you to Justin M., Jessica C., Inga, Kaylee, Terry J., Tracy B., Miss Wonderstats, Quentin P., Ekabex, Mistress Mischief, Tasha S., Miss Anthropy, Princess Buttercup, Dragon Lady, Helena C., Aaron B., Stephanie S., Texas Teacher Kristen, James Nally J., Samantha D., Lisa C., Rachel, Jen Genie, Exhausted Band Director, Kimberly K., Jessica A., Swiffle Ev Owners, Amanda F., Amariana L., Physics Runner, Steph, Michael M., Aldrich T., La Scorpionita, Britt M., Teresa H., Biker Teach, Marsha M., Christina B., Jason F., Abby B., Sarah B., Regina N., Josie S., Sam B., Mary E., Kristen W., Vanessa J., Mary C., RJR, Kristen C., Johanna H., Irma A., Nimi, and Sarah N. A huge thank you to all of you. A big thank you also to our other sponsor, Lud Lamb Dramatics. If you are a theater teacher or no one in your building, go to Lud Lamb Dramatics and get some of the best resources for your walls that you can imagine. That's ludlambdramatics.com. All right, folks, this is a really hard time of year. I know personally my anxiety and some of the other hosts is really high, as well as just, some depression. It's hard going back to school right now. And it's even harder when you see all these people going, yay, I'm so excited. And you're like, fuck. Last year was rough. I don't know if I can do another one. Well, you can, and we're going to talk about options that you have and other things you can do, but mostly we're going to be here just to support you and let you know you are not alone. All of you out there, take care of yourselves and enjoy this episode.
That's perfect for hang out for between two ferns.
Group conversations always. That's hilarious.
Where do you not buy your condoms? That's perfect.
Well, welcome to Teacher Needs a Drink podcast. I am Elvis, your host. We're hanging out at my house around the table with our drinks, and to my right I have Mr. Wayne Kurr.
What? Me? First?
Oh wait, you're
all
across
the times.
from me. Okay, so across from me is Wayne Kurr. To my right I have Mr. Count Chocolate.
Hey, the chocolateyest of all the chocolatey folk. Hey, how y'all doing?
And adjacent to me I have Miss Bunny O'Hare.
Hey Elvis, hey folks.
Hey guys, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we get to do this and still meet up and have fun and do our stuff.
That was premature.
Yeah, it always is. It always is. You gotta just breathe, man. Think of baseball and breathe. So, I believe you. And I'm stuck.
I just want to announce for everybody in the audience, Wayne went into a fist bump. Cal left him hanging for like 10 seconds.
I was laughing and my eyes were closed. I really was.
All right, so... All right, well, it's so good to see friends. It's so good to have you guys here. I've been in a grim mood the last month or two, and so this is great. I love this. So, we're going to jump right in. This is from the Reddits, and this is from user Don't Know Spelling. And
what? Oh, okay.
That's their name, is user Don't Know Spelling. And their question is, what are some things that surprised you when you first began to work as a teacher? Examples about the work, students, staff, parents. I was speaking with a friend who was looking to begin her I was looking... Shit! Phonics worked for me! I was speaking with a friend who was looking to begin teaching her first class, and seeing that she was nervous, I asked why. She said because what you are taught in your courses often do not translate well into the real world. She knew this because she has a couple of masters and that the actual work had been very different from the principles and ideals taught in her courses. So I want to ask you, what are some things that you found as a new teacher surprising, bad or good, given what you have been led to expect or hope to achieve? So... when I was doing my educational classes in college, I was also observing and doing class where I wasn't student teaching, but I was doing whatever the thing below where you're spending like 8 hours in a classroom observing. And I remember going from that, and it was a very rough Title I school. It was a middle school that had been going around forever. And then I'd go to this class, and the woman teaching it hadn't been in a classroom in at least 25 years. Mm-hmm. And I remember her saying one time, like, if kids aren't listening, you should get a wand and wave it over their head and pretend it's fairy dust and tell them that this is a magical listening thing. She was talking about high school kids. And just these middle school kids would have eaten me alone. Probably one of them would have grabbed the wand and like hit their friend with it or something. Like it wouldn't have worked.
Yes.
And I remember thinking then, okay, nothing I am learning in this classroom, except for literally the vocabulary and the verbiage I needed to know, applied in my real world.
This is true.
And while that could make you nervous, at least it's something. At least it's some kind of beginning. And so there was a lot of things that surprised me when I got to school. I was surprised how many of the teachers were friends. I was surprised at how, like, if you knew, like, the grumpy teacher or the serious, how they're actually pretty cool behind the scenes. They're just like that because kids are dicks. I also learned what it was like to go to fun teacher parties and lame teacher parties. I mean, and just learning that you could, you know.
Even faculty meetings, my bad.
Oh, no, faculty meetings. I still have yet to be at one fun fact. There were some that were less painful, but there wasn't one like, hey, guys, here's a $15,000 check for all of you. Everyone reach in your chair. Woo! It's always like, hey, PTA's bringing food, and so if your lunch is from 10 to 10:30, you'll get some of it. Everyone else, you're out of luck because the people 10 to 10:30 will eat all of it. So
That's true.
Oh, no, that's it. I think that was the thing that surprised me. How fierce some teachers are when it comes to free snacks, free food, where they will go sprinting, they will fill up a purse or a to-go box.
Yes.
All decorum.
Stop talking about me.
Like, they'll have someone cover their room so they can run to the cafeteria and get food before anyone else can.
I was literally going to say,
Teamwork
I
makes the dream
remember
work, okay?
teachers like rolling out of class and coming back with a box. Like, oh, where'd you go? Leaving us unattended. Like, oh, I got an email that said they had leftover pizza or leftover pasta from last night's banquet in a lunch or in the lounge. And I was like, you just left us during a quiz and came back and didn't offer us a plate.
But did you die?
Yeah.
But as a teacher, I also know whenever any kid asks, can I have some or can I have that? My answer is no. Why do you want that? Because I'm a teacher.
Boundaries.
Because I'm an adult. Suck it up.
Rule number one, if you can at any way possible avoid it, is please do not shop at the grocery store closest to your school. Or, I mean, if you happen to live there, just, go to a different grocery store. And the reason why, at the end of my first year, it's summertime, we're ready to just kick back and do everything. Go on to H-E-B, we pick up a whole shitload of liquor and a whole shitload of, we had whipped cream. And the look of a couple of people's faces as we were walking out, including my assistant principal, who was supervising me. So please, if any way possible, do not shop close to where your school is.
Honestly, it's not a bad idea if you can when you're job hunting or looking for places. Maybe don't live in the zone for your school, because it's nice to be able to go to a bar. Walk outside and pick up, check your mail in just a bathrobe or something without having to worry about some kid seeing you. Or, God forbid, you have an argument and, you're having a party at your house or someone's in the front yard being belligerent. No. You don't want your kid, you don't want that anywhere where it can get back to you.
No.
So keep a distance, a little one, just a little one. Bunny, what about you? What are some things that you learned or were surprised by when you started teaching?
Before I get to that, I just have to reiterate the importance of Wayne's point there, because my first year of teaching, I lived in the zone of the school that I taught at, and I was grocery shopping at Walmart one night and ran into one of my male middle school students, and damned if I didn't have a bottle of wine and a box of tampons in my grocery cart. So that was fun.
Using one to celebrate the other.
Not even acknowledging. I think the thing that surprised me the most was, and I don't know why it surprised me, because I certainly had crappy teachers in school, but looking around and see, for my observation internship, like the thing that you were talking about, I got placed with a teacher and I just watched that woman in class like, this is how I don't want to be as a teacher. And I think that was like a wake up for me as far as like, oh, not all of the teachers are, you know, not everybody is worth imitating here. Like look for the ones that are more in line with your ideals.
Exactly, and you can't match everyone. I've said this a couple times. When I was student teaching, I had a wonderful mentor teacher. She literally wrote the textbook of the subject we were teaching that was adopted by the state.
Yep.
And she was getting ready to retire. It's like, if you want this job, you can take this position. However, she was an older woman because she had been teaching since, the 1960s or something. And she gave off a very good vibe, but it was almost a grandma vibe to the kids. And so she could get them in line and do it. But me being like a 22-year-old boy right out of college, 23, I don't have grandma vibes. No. Me being sweet and tender to the kids isn't going to get the same reaction, especially when it's this... It was a very challenging Title I school. In fact, I mentioned the fairy tale teacher who'd been out of the classroom. So the teacher who I was student teaching for, at one point she had to leave because she had to have some medical treatments. And so I was her sub as a student teacher. So it was a weird thing because they were paying me while I was there. And there was all kinds of weird stuff. But there was a week where I was burning out because the kids were hell. They were putting me through it. Admin at that school didn't deal with kids. Like, you send them to the office, they'd send them back and say, why'd you send them here?
Exactly.
We've got stuff to do. And so it was just kind of like, okay, just keep them there. And so I remember I was gone, and the teacher who was teaching my education classes came in to sub, and she quit after the first day and said she refused to sub for that class anymore.
Nice.
But what pisses me off is when I went to her, because she was supposed to be like the person overseeing, I was like, I'm really struggling here. I'm not doing well. She's like, maybe you're just not a morning person. And she said some kind of shitty things like that. So when the next day, like, she dropped out, I was like, yeah, guess who's not a morning person? Yeah, you, huh? Yeah. Amazing how that works. Ooh, Count, you got a story. I see something in there. Brewing. I see it. What you got?
I'm going to piggyback on what Bunny said. One of the first things I realized was, I believe within the first week or two on my first job teaching, was how many educators really didn't seem to care that much about kids. I know this is a very negative thing to say, but they obviously had a job to do. They were going to do their job, and they did their job well. They just didn't really seem that interested in making solid and good connections with students, or relating with them. And I guess that probably can go a couple different ways depending on the subject that you're teaching. But if you're in a special and you don't seem passionate about what it is you're doing, I feel kids pick up on that really quickly.
Yeah.
And that just I feel like it makes for a long year for the student and sometimes for the adult. The other thing for me, even as a teacher and as a counselor, I was always shocked by how open and forthcoming students can be with their exploits and their sexual activity.
Yeah.
Not just to other adults, but just flat out telling friends how the weekend went in the middle of class. And not necessarily whispering about it.
Nope.
I'm not saying you have to brag about your quests or whatever you did over the weekend, but just downright just sharing everything. And I've been on multiple campuses where I've had to kind of investigate and get to the root of like an STD ring. Like, hey, this happened. You need to go,
take care of yourself.
Talk to the nurse, talk to the doctor. You may need to contact your partners to let them know. And I'm telling you that tangled web is it's downright gross. But that shocked me, and it still shocks me every time it happens because it continues to happen because teens are teens.
Yeah, and it gets a little more. I don't know. I think the internet's made them a little more creative. Yeah. They're like, oh, I just saw this grapefruit thing. I was like, what? And they're like, yeah. Oh, shit. Google it, buddy. You'll love it. So, Wayne.
I got one more. For all the people about to enter into your first year, I'm going to tell you that you're going to feel like it's just nonstop. It's a whole bunch of time just to get everything set up. And it's absolutely true, because I remember that the first time that I heard a kid say this, I was like, it matches the description. In which case, the kid started this rumor that I was a vampire, because I was always, yeah, exactly. But anyway, but you know, I was coming in before the sun came up, and I was leaving well after the sun had gone down, and they were just like, that's only a logical explanation. He must be a vampire. So yeah.
I love it.
There are worse rumors to have about you. That's one
that
way
was
to.
a good one.
Yeah, that's one way to like put the fear of God in them.
Exactly.
You know?
It's just like, don't mess with him. He'll suck you dry. Oops.
I just realized that the first job I took teaching, before that teacher retired, I told her the school that I didn't want to take over that Title I school. And so the job they needed filled was called NovaNet. And it was a small portable building on campus.
We had that.
And it was essentially a small computer lab. Like, there might have been like 15 screens. They had pieces apart. And for kids, for whatever reason, couldn't function in the classroom, but didn't need to be put to, like, I don't know, what do you call it, the AB restraint room, or the other portable thing, you know, separate but equal that they put off somewhere for kids that had issues. They could come in and they'd do their class online.
Wow.
And it was very, very basic. It was like some history stuff, but it was just me monitoring this test. But I remember seeing like kids would either race through and do all their lessons super quick, or they'd sit and stare for 5 hours. Like, literally, all you have to do is just hit enter, hit yes, hit no, do something, and that was too much. Like, oh shit, we just saw that all over again when 2020, 2021, 2022. And I was like, oh, I saw the future. People who've been doing these computer programs probably aren't surprised with how, you know, the entire student population went when it went virtual.
Yeah.
Oof.
Taking the
Poor
state
performance.
standardized tests online, like the campus that I was at this past year went to all online administration for it, and the kids were doing the exact same shit, like either racing through it, and you're like, I know there's no way that you solved more than 3 math problems in that amount of time, like for you to be done that quickly, or they put their head down and fell asleep for 3 hours, and so no, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Well, that was one of the things we had when we met in the bar last month for one of our noisier episodes. For those of you who couldn't listen through it, it was a teacher was giving a final exam in class. Not a standardized test, but a final. And so the class was longer than normal. It was like a 3-hour class instead of the normal 90-minute block. Yeah. And there were 2 students who had no idea a final was going on. They just sat there and stared off and didn't pick up till the last few minutes. Like, what the hell? Come to earth. Just show a little bit of interest.
That was funny.
Oh, man. Anyway. Hey, guys, guess what? What? We have a Patreon!
Another secret page?
That's right. If you just love Teacher Needs a Drink podcast and want to hear a lot more of us, you should go to Patreon and sign up for Teacher Needs a Drink podcast Patreon. That's right. For as little as $5 a month, you get access to all kinds of extra bonus content. We got extra things in there. There is Count's secret gumbo recipe on there. It is amazing. There is all kinds of stuff, so you should sign up and do it now! Yeah. All right, what do we have now? What do we have? So,
Secret gumbo.
Is there really a gumbo recipe? Like, what did I miss?
It was a cheeseburger soup one.
Yeah.
all right.
I thought it just had Buddy's preferences of beers.
Bunny doesn't drink beer.
I know, that's the whole point.
Okay.
Okay.
It's funny when Bunny buzzes, though.
When Bunny what?
When Bunny buzzes.
Oh.
I don't see you buzz that often. It's a...
I don't often, but
It happens.
I get opinionated.
You get handsy.
Whoa.
All right. So,
Why am I never here for that?
would you rather have hooves? I mean, I'm assuming like cloven hooves,
exactly.
you know. Or every time you sit down, 2 fat guys sit on either side of you for perpetuity. So have hooves, or every time you sit down, 2 fat guys sit on either side of you. Imagine like permanently being in the middle seat on an airplane. Or a lunch counter, or your car.
I have an airplane story too.
Oh, man.
Just on my flight back from DC, I was.
You see, you're assuming I don't have cloven hooves.
That's true. Well,
Like feet and hands?
it just says feet. It just says have hooves.
Okay.
So maybe hooves. I mean, I assume just feet. You could have hands too. I'm saying just feet. We're like minotaurs
I don't know how
here.
that works.
I'm gonna go with hooves because number one, I like space. I don't like people being that close to me all the time unless there's someone I love or someone I want to cuddle or something like that. And two, I've always loved the sound of hooves. Like ever since like seeing Monty Python and the Coconuts when I was little, and like I loved watching Gregory Hines tap dance. And so I think I could combine those two and just have like clockety clock 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 clock, and I'd be like dancing around. And
There you go.
so I'm going with hooves because that sounds way better. I mean, would I need shoes anymore? Would I need socks?
Man.
You would need like
it's a whole new
horseshoes. You would
world.
need like you would have to go to the
You'd have to see a blacksmith.
So like,
Oh.
I maintain my foot hygiene so I don't like drag and tow my sheets and slit them up or anything like that because nobody wants that.
No.
Would horseshoes tear? Like, would I be able to have my super silk set like sheets anymore if I have horse hooves?
You might have to have like sleep with socks on or something.
Yeah.
Little
That's my
little hoof
assumption.
mittens.
Yeah.
Yeah, hoof
Hoof guards? Yeah, it'd be like hockey guards or skate guards, like a little thing that just cuts over.
Exactly.
I would be a sight. Like, hey, lady, you gonna come spend the night with Elvis? Well, let me put my mouth guard on. Let me put this CPAP thing on. Let me put these hoof on. And they're like, I'm gonna stay on this side. You go over there. Hopefully, you're here in the morning.
I understand.
Yeah, if not, I understand. I wouldn't want to be with me either. Buddy, what about you? You going hooves or the two fat guys every time you sit down?
Okay, you know what?
How is this a question? It seems so clear to me.
Okay, listen. I didn't think the fat guys would be a problem. Like, I'm used to kind of being in the middle seat on the airplane. But then I realized, like, does that include when I sit down to go to the bathroom? And so that's a hard no, so I'm going with hooves.
There you go.
That's a hard
Yeah,
no.
I'm glad I didn't give them, like, annoying faces or anything like that. It just says they're sitting. So I'm just assuming it's just, like, two kind of, they're, like, reading a paper, looking at their phone.
Yeah.
I'm assuming hygiene is up to par.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're perfectly nice gentlemen,
Yeah,
but I don't
no,
want
I
them
know.
around me when I'm trying to go to the bathroom.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And what if you wanted to ride a roller coaster or go in the tunnel of love with your sweetie? They're sorry, you can't be in my car.
So I've thought about that. Like, what about if I am sitting in a movie theater with someone, and then as soon as I sit down, they are now 2 seats over from me? Mm-hmm. Or the airplane situation. Mm-hmm. Or if I sit down at my desk at work, I gotta go with hooves.
Yeah.
And then I got to contact Pharrell for some designer like hoof sleeves and hoof hoods. I don't know. I need something to cover up them bad boys. Some sheaths. Just wonder if I could still run okay in them there.
I didn't go, but yes, my answer is the same. As in, like, you assume I don't have them, but yes,
Yeah.
I would go. I would go with I would go with the hooves over two people that were always in my space. I mean, they might be very nice people, but like, I'm sorry, Miss Kurr is so much better to sit next to and cuddle with as
I know.
opposed to, hey, well, how do you know? So,
She smells better than two fat guys.
oh, this is true.
Yeah.
Thank you for agreeing.
Yeah. She not listen to the podcast? Are you going to get away with insulting her?
He gets to sleep in the house too.
Yes.
I really am not seeing a downside to the hooves. I see all kinds of downside. Like, I could clean them. If it's just two, I wouldn't want to lose my hands, but just the feet.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
the
going to
feet
say if
is
it's
fine.
the hands, then we have problems because then you can't, you're going to have problems cooking, you're going
I
to have
don't have to
problems
worry
with,
about ingrown
bathing,
toenails.
So I'm curious, would there be like fur on it, or would it just be like the big thing? Like, would I have to wonder what kind of maintenance? Like, I worked in a horse barn.
yeah.
I knew how to but
Yeah.
it's not muck. That's what you do. The stall where you lift the
Yeah.
shoe and you pick it out.
Yeah.
I was talking to some woman in all of my social lives, and it's like, hey, what are you up to? She goes, I'm looking at TikTok. I'm like, oh, blah, blah, blah. What kind of stuff you watch? She's like, oh, you won't like it. It's gross. I'm like, oh, is it one of those pimple popping things? I was like, I can't do that. She's like, oh, no, it's worse. And, like, her whole thing was watching, like, hooves get cleaned out. Like, they take, there's a pick. They, like, chop the little nail off. They do all the thing. But that was, like, she would watch that hours. And this wasn't just, like, a one-night rabbit hole. She's like, no, this is just what I really like watching this. I'm just fascinated. I'm like, okay.
I mean,
Well, safe to say
Okay,
that, it didn't work out.
No.
There were no bearded dragons or anything,
Yeah,
but, it was
exactly.
enough that I was like, I'm out of this one. So, 3 swipes later, I moved on. All right, folks. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of Teacher Needs a Drink podcast. I'd like to thank my host.